Hello again to all of you. Today we're going to talk about Terra Luna Classic or Lunc, which has truly become one of the most talked about coins in recent days. Because there's been a lot of activity in the market, and especially the massive burn operations happening on Binance have once again turned all the attention to Lunc. Now, when we look at it, Lunc has experienced an incredible surge over the past few weeks, friends. The price rose from around 67, dropping a zero, all the way up to 11. In fact, according to some analyses, we're talking about an increase of over 200%. Especially the Lunc community, which had been quiet for a long time, has become seriously active again. The biggest reason behind this surge is the massive burn operations carried out by Binance. According to reports, Binance removed more than 1 billion Lunc tokens from circulation at the beginning of May. In other words, they directly burned tokens. Naturally, this reduces the supply in the market and draws investors' attention back to Lunc. In fact, the community has now started to put pressure on Binance because right now Binance is burning 50% of the transaction fees it collects. The community wants this to be increased to 100%. It is being said that if something like this happens, we could see much more aggressive movements on the Lunc side. Another important detail is the trading volume, because while a few months ago the daily volume was around 10 or 20 million dollars, now we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in volume. This shows that serious money is flowing back into the market. It is especially being talked about that whales have started accumulating Lancy again. But there is an important point to pay attention to here, friends. Yes, the upward movement looks very strong, but Lanc is still an extremely risky coin because the circulating supply is still at the trillion level and it is a structure that moves forward entirely with community support. So, movements here can be very sharp. One day we might see a 30% increase, while the next day we could witness very steep drops. On the technical side, some analysts are now saying that important resistance levels have been broken. In particular, reclaiming a certain level has created great excitement in the market psychologically. If the momentum continues, some analysts think that even higher levels could be discussed. Additionally, some developments are still ongoing in the Terra Luna Classic ecosystem, friends. Cosmos SDK updates, staking developments, and rumors of a new roadmap have caused the community to become hopeful again. So, right now, we can say that there is significant activity on the Lunc side in terms of technicals, community, and hype. So, do you think Lunc can really return to its former glory? Or is this rise just a short term hype? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Currently, Lunc is trading around the 80 to 94 levels, friends, and honestly, we can say the market is at a decision point. Because after the recent Binance burn news, we saw a strong upward movement. But right now, it seems like the price is taking a breather. The area to pay special attention to is the 8th level, which is where we are right now, friends, because this area has now become a psychological support. If Lunc manages to hold on here, buying pressure could return to the market and the price might attempt another upward move. This is the first major resistance area on the upside, friends. If this level is broken, FOMO could start again in the market and we might see a rise up to these levels. Especially as long as the community hype continues, we may keep seeing sharp candles on the Lunc side. But there is still risk on the downside because Lunc is a very volatile coin and moves are extremely dependent on news flow. If the 8th support is lost, the price could retreat in the short term to the 75-70 region, that is to around here, friends. That's why you need to be very careful. Currently, the biggest expectation in the market is whether Binance will continue the burn process or not, because most of the recent rise came entirely from burn news and community excitement. If new burn news or major exchange developments come out, Lung could move very quickly again. On the technical side, the volume still looks strong. This shows that the interest in the market hasn't completely disappeared, friends. So, right now, the most critical question for Lunk is this: is this just a short term hype, or is it really the beginning of a new upward trend? That's all for today's news and analysis, friends. Take good care of yourselves. What I've shared is definitely not investment advice. See you next time.